Hello everybody, I finally got a chance to play Quake Champions. I've actually been in the beta for a while, but between there being an NDA and me not having time, I just haven't played it at all. So what you're seeing in the background is my second game ever, and my third game ever. But I need to take you down memory lane with Zen before we even talk about the game. Because when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I'm 29 now, so this is, a ways back. When I was in high school, we had some amazing IT department leads at our school. Our school was really small, my graduating class was 75 kids, but we had one thing that was consistent. There were several different IT techs throughout the years, and they all loved games. They all loved the kids that played the games with them. So the first IT guy that was there at the school when I first got into high school, he did something amazing that defined my life as it is today. He got about 20 of us together once a week on, it was like a Wednesday night. I don't remember what night of the week or what week of night of the week it was, but I just remember getting together once a week for like an entire school year and going into the computer lab, installing Quake, installing StarCraft, and installing Unreal Tournament, and playing those games with each other. And the fact that we could have a LAN party with like 20 of us all playing different games and really enjoying those games and playing things like Quake and Unreal Tournament, that defined who I am today as a person, because that was the first like multiplayer experience I had as a kid. And, well, I guess multiplayer LAN experience I had as a kid, and it got me into these kind of games because I wasn't into these kind of games before that. I hadn't really played Quake at home until I played it at that like little LAN party thing. And by playing that, we all got really interested in these games. We would get back from playing them, like, say it was a Wednesday night, we would get back to school on Thursday, and all we would talk about when we weren't in class, when we were at lunch and whatever, was talking about Quake and all of our strategies for StarCraft and that kind of stuff. So for me, I have massive fond memories of these kind of games. So when I get into Quake Champions, there's a little bit of an expectation there that the game is going to feel and play like Quake, and I'm happy to report that I think it does. There are some things that feel a little off. Some of the weapons don't quite feel the way that I recall them feeling. They're obviously like new models and stuff. It's hard to translate the feel of an older engine into a new engine, but they've managed to do it for the most part. But there are, like the shotgun, for example, doesn't quite feel like a shotgun from Quake, but it does feel close enough. And on top of that, the different characters all have different abilities, so that changes the way it feels as well. But you still have the same movement, feels like Quake. When you're running around, it feels like Quake. The shooting feels like Quake for the most part, except for a few weapons. And the levels feel like Quake with the power-ups, the things on the ground, you having to get armor and health, and then, obviously having to traverse an area in order to get to either secret areas that have like a mega health or something like that. The idea behind it is that you have these champions, or heroes, or whatever they're going to call them, inside of a classic Quake game. And the result is a game that is Quake, but also has some modernization to it. So you look at games that have recently come out, like Overwatch, and you can see why people want to mimic Overwatch, because it is a very popular game, and it is also very good. But at the same time, mimicking Overwatch isn't necessarily something that I don't think the people at Bethesda want to do with Quake. They want to make Quake, but they also kind of want a modern version of Quake. And I think that to them, the best way to do that is to, of course, give you a game that has, modern ideas, such as having different heroes and those heroes having different abilities. None of those abilities are anything like they are in Overwatch. You're not doing like the crazy rocket barrage from Pharah, for example. You're not having these really overpowered abilities. It's just like a pretty long cooldown ability that gives whatever character you're playing flavor and tailors your experience to the way that you want to play. For example, the girl I'm playing in the background, she can go stealth, which is really nice to have as an escape. And then if you appear out of stealth in somebody, it instantly kills them. It's actually hard to nail. I haven't done it in the footage. I've done it since then though. And it's a little wonky to use, but I've been using it as an escape or as a surprise. So like you jump up on somebody real close with like the shotgun and something, because you go invisible and they can't see you or hear you or anything. And then you go nuts on their face with your shotgun as soon as you come out of stealth. It's a lot of fun. There's also this like chameleon dude, or I guess it's a woman. It's like a lizard woman who can spray poison on the ground. If you run through it, it poisons you, but she can like hit you with it too. It also does a lot of damage. There's a guy that can like full on charge at you, and if he runs you into a wall, you just die, which is very satisfying to use, very kind of frustrating to play against, right? But at no point in playing this do I feel like none of these abilities are Quake-like. They just feel different, because the game itself feels like Quake, and then suddenly you throw these abilities on top of it. It doesn't ruin the experience. Again, it just changes the experience. And to me, it means that you can play the game play the game how you want to play it, in the way that, you know what, I didn't realize this until like halfway through one of my other games, but each person has different life totals and how much life you start with and how much life you can get max. And then same thing with armor. You have a max armor total and how much armor that you can, potentially start with when you go start running over stuff. So with that in mind, you have some characters that are really tanky and some that aren't. But, getting a headshot is still going to kill you. So while that seems like a little annoying and not Quake-like and a little overpowered if you're playing a really tanky character, I think that is only going to have effect at like low levels of play, where you're not getting headshots, you're not necessarily the best with your aim, and the people who have a lot of HP are going to kill you if you don't have a lot of HP. Because if you're hitting each other roughly the same amount with whatever weapon you're using, let's say you both have the machine gun, you're both using equal weapon, and you're hitting each other an equal amount of times, the person who has a higher HP character is just straight up going to kill you in comparison. So when I realized that, and then I realized that, oh, my character is really fast, because there's different speeds on different characters. My character is really fast, but she's really squishy. Now I can suddenly start tailoring my playstyle to that, because I like that playstyle. I like moving real fast. It actually is, I would say, working towards my strengths in the game. Being able to move and shoot and jump and shoot, I'm usually fairly good at. So in the case of being able to do that, here, and have a character that is tailored to that experience, it means that I can find a playstyle that I really enjoy within Quake. And I also don't think that at any point is there, a best character to play, because again, if you have the aim, you're naturally going to be better at the game than everybody else, regardless of what character you're playing on. Because if you can land headshots with the like plasma rifle and stuff, you're done. You're gonna win compared to everybody else. So outside of the gameplay, which again I feel like the levels are Quake, power-ups are Quake, the weapons feel like Quake for the most part, and the characters, while they have their own abilities, don't really affect the Quake experience, right? I think they enhance it a bit. We'll have to see kind of what other champions they end up adding, because it does seem like that they're going down that line of thought of adding more champions over time, which all have different things that may, quote unquote, shake up the meta. But I don't think in competitive play you're ever really gonna see everybody playing one character, because sometimes you're just better at certain playstyles, like me. Better at moving fast than I am at moving slow. If I can move fast and not get hit and try to avoid hits, especially against people of equal skill to me, then I'm going to do a lot better than if I was playing a slow character and just like constantly taking hits to the face. But outside of that, you got to look at what this game is trying to achieve, because I think it's really important to look and be like, what is the business model for this game? Because it is not Quake. Quake, in its entirety, for pretty much as long as it's existed, has either been something that you can freely play or something that you buy and then that's how you play it, right? And what I mean by that is it's an idea that has been around for the ages. You buy the game, you have full access to the game, that's the game. Unfortunately, it means that once the company has sold you a copy, you can put 2,000 hours into the game and they're not going to make any more money off of you. So what they've decided to do here is make it a free-to-play game with different champions. You actually currently have to unlock each champion, and the way you do that is you buy them. So you can either buy them with like individually with money, or you can just buy all of them at once, kind of like a Smite deal, where you can buy like all the champions in Smite or all the gods within Smite and have all of them forever, even when they add new ones. I think that's a really cool idea, but it just feels kind of cheap here, because I understand that they want to add new characters and stuff, but it doesn't, the way that they've gone about it doesn't feel right. Because you can, and hear me out on this, you can trial a character. There's different currencies in game that you can purchase a character with, and then you use that currency to have them for like a 24-hour period before you have to repurchase that same thing. I don't know how I feel about that. I understand that the company needs to make money, but it just doesn't feel like the right way to go about it. And of course, this is early beta, so we'll see how that changes over the course of time. It just feels not like a good strategy as far as their marketing is concerned, and as far as like actually selling things is concerned. On top of that, you have a loot chest system just like you do in Overwatch. I would actually, weirdly enough, I would say it's a lot more like Heroes of the Storm than it is Overwatch, where you can go open up a chest and get a ton of cosmetic items for a character, and then you can put those on at any time. But there's also like other little bonuses in those chests as well. And I know that Overwatch has that as an idea, but with heroes, you can also just get straight up heroes out of them, which I like, or, you know, mounts and stuff for Heroes of the Storm. But the fact that you can like get a hero out of a loot box feels a lot better, and I'm pretty sure you cannot in Quake Champions, and I wish that that was the case, that you could, because then it would offset that a bit, and it would make you know, it feel more like Quake in my eyes. And when evaluating Quake as a game, you also have to evaluate every other game on the market that is doing the exact same thing or close to it. So we have the Unreal Tournament pre-alpha, which, by the way, is fantastic. It's free. You can go download it. I would suggest it. That feels amazing, and it feels like Unreal Tournament. The guns are all exactly the same feeling. The levels are gorgeous because it's running the new Unreal Engine. And they have done a fairly good job of making everything feel and move and sound like Unreal. It even has the Unreal Tournament announcer, which is just fan-freaking-tastic. Like, I love that a lot. So you have Quake on this end, which is trying to do something different in the way that it does its content, where, you know, you have all these different champions and stuff. Then you have something that's going way more traditional with Unreal Tournament pre-alpha. I wouldn't say that it's massively successful, the pre-alpha, but that's because it's not really well promoted, and I think that that's on purpose, because they're trying to get the feel of different levels down and get people making their own content in Unreal Tournament before they just like release the game. But it is free and you can go play it immediately, and I would suggest doing so. But on top of that, you know, you have Lawbreakers, which I have played and is extremely good. I really like Lawbreakers. It moves like an arena shooter. It has the hero system that you would expect in things like Overwatch, except all of the abilities aren't, you know, tailored around an ultimate ability like they are in Overwatch, where it's a team game in Overwatch, and the idea is if you can like set up a really good combo, you have a Reinhardt with the shield, you have your team behind it healing him and everybody else, and you have your like Genji flanking or your Tracer flanking. You play that as a team game, whereas with Unreal Tournament and with Quake and with Lawbreakers, you don't necessarily have those kind of like objectives that you're fighting over. They obviously have, you know, capture the flag type gameplay. They have team deathmatch, and those I think you will see a lot in competitive play on these games, because obviously there's going to be competitive play, because the people who used to play Quake competitively long before esports were massive are going to come back and start playing these kind of games, right? So, you know, you look at all that and you go, how does Lawbreakers do it differently? And they have just like a really cool movement system and really awesome abilities on all of their characters. It's like Quake in a way, but it's also all of the levels have something unique about them. So, you know, Lawbreakers has its own unique take on the arena shooter. And there's plenty of other games coming out that want to relive that majesty. You know, we're seeing the revival of arena shooters. And as someone who grew up playing these games, I love to see. I'm just a little afraid that people either are going to get way too conservative with this, and they're going to want to recreate Quake as it used to be, which I would say there are people out there who would love that. But then there's the exact opposite issue, the pendulum issue of people are going to go way too crazy and take it way too far away from what these games are. And I think Quake Champions is resting somewhere in between. To some degree, I'd say they're playing it safe. But on the other hand, I think they are nailing it and making it feel really, really fun and cool to play. Which game will be successful? Who knows, you know? Like, Overwatch is massively successful. You cannot compare Overwatch with Quake Champions or with Unreal Tournament or with Lawbreakers. There is no comparison. They're different kind of games, right? I think that's the first thing that we need to say. There are similarities, but they are different kind of games, and they're going to draw different kinds of audiences and certainly different kinds of players. So people who are going to be playing Quake and Unreal Tournament and Lawbreakers are going to be more of your typical arena shooter dudes from back in the day, or people who are really kind of getting into that gameplay now. Maybe people who are much younger and missed out on that phase of life when they were younger, because, you know, they were too young to play those games, or they just weren't playing games back then. You know, there's a lot of options there of why people would get into Quake and Unreal Tournament now and be completely new to the entire experience. And when you look at the esports audience for CSGO, you see that there is a massive audience for people who like shooters, and that massive audience, there's a bit of crossover for watching Overwatch, but Overwatch has its own massive audience, and that's really cool to see. You know, it's cool to see these games be successful and to watch people who are actually good at the game. Like, I am not good at Quake, but to watch people who are actually good at the game do extremely well, it's awesome. Like, it's kind of like watching, you know, high-level racing. If you're watching Formula 1, or you're watching like the World Rallycross Championship, or you're watching, you know, like Indy 500, like these people who are really good at racing do their thing and be really good at it. It's entertaining, you know. It's like watching a football star be really good at their sport. It's awesome and awe-inspiring to watch. It's the same thing with watching pro players play Quake and Unreal Tournament and these arena shooters, because they're fantastically good. Even the people who play Counter-Strike are fantastically good, and it's amazing to watch. But I think what we're going to see is those pro players not necessarily come back, maybe become coaches, maybe become team owners. You know, I think their time has passed as far as their prime and how good they are at Quake. But the new generation coming in, if they attach to it, we're going to see a massive esports audience for these games again. And we'll see that revival. I want to actually even say revival, because that audience has already existed and has continued to exist for quite some time. So it's just a matter of seeing how many of them latch onto this and how many of them continue to watch the game, or how many new people continue to watch the game be played if they've seen it once or twice. But I'm fully believing that there is a massive audience for this. I think there is a massive audience of gamers who want to play these kind of games. Maybe they missed out on it. Maybe they want to relive their glory days. Either way, arena shooters are making a comeback, and that makes me extremely happy as a person who, from a young age, was massively influenced by arena shooters. And to be completely honest with you, if I didn't play Quake and I didn't play Unreal Tournament as a kid, I would be a much different person, because those games massively affected me. Mostly because of, you know, the amount of time they took up in my life at the time, but because of the friendships I made of it, because of the assumptions as a person I made of myself and of other people, you know, like getting to know random people while playing competitive games and having fun destroying them in a game or being destroyed by them, and then not necessarily getting upset and yelling at them or calling them names or yelling about how their mother is stupid or anything like that you see in competitive games now. Like, the way that I am so chill when I play games online and I don't rage quit, stuff like that, is simply because of the people that I played these arena shooters with back in the day. I don't ever remember them rage quitting. I know I didn't, and it was a really fun community to be a part of. And I want to see that come back. I'm excited for it to come back, and you should be too. So play Quake Champions. Get into the beta. You can go sign up for it. See if you like it. If you don't, then there are several other games out there to still try. You know, get into Lawbreakers. See if you like that, because I do. It's actually a lot of fun. It's probably one of the better ones out there. And then, at the very least, go and try Unreal Tournament and see if that is up your alley. But with that being said, man, I can't wait for arena shooters, man. I'm going to be playing so many of them over the next few years, I feel. And we shall see you guys next time.